You are listening to the League of Women Voters Oral History. My name is Ellie Davis, and today I'm talking with Cheryl Tumola about her time as the Radnor League president, her efforts to improve recycling, and open space.
I have been in Radnor since 1979. I joined the League in 1980, and which 41 years, huh? And that's how I got involved in the League. I went to a meeting about it, like an open meeting that a friend of mine suggested that I go to. She and I were co-den leaders for our son's Cub Scout troop, and she said, you might want to join the League. And I went to an open meeting, and I liked what I heard. Not that I wasn't familiar with the League before, but what this League was doing. And so then I went to this open meeting, and I was recruited. And then I went to the annual meeting, and I told people I liked my favorite subjects were social issues and the environment, and they didn't have anybody to cover the environment, so it became me. My first League annual meeting outdoors was just wonderful. They had it at the Willows, and we were on a patio, and the women everybody got to speak about their portfolio, is what we call it, the subject that they were in charge of. And I learned so much, and I was just so delighted. And the meetings at Susan's are always lively discussions because we're being asked to, that's the program planning dinner in the winter, we're being asked to tell the National League what we think, as a grassroots organization, we think needs to happen on a wider scale, what we think the League needs to do, support, whatever. And by this time, a lot of those things have already been encoded in our positions. So it's pretty exciting to have seen that happen. The actual, so now you can speak on a wide range of things if you get permission from the board and the president, which is very nice. Mm-hmm. I think I was president from maybe the County League. I was president 92 to 96. Local League, maybe 88 to 90. And then I became the local league president again in the late 90s.
Ms. Tumola was a driving force behind the recycling program in Radnor.
We had this committee, the Environmental Quality Committee, and one of the things that the national, which is such a large, broad-based program, and again the state league were emphasizing at the time, there were stories of floating barges full of trash in the ocean. They couldn't put them anywhere. The landfills were overflowing. Nobody wanted a new landfill. I mean, who does, in their community? And so trash became a big issue all over the place. So one of the things, of course, that we hoped would ameliorate that would be to have some of it taken out and reused. So we did a study about recycling, and got our township manager at the time, who was wonderful, helped us get a grant to be a pilot program for curbside recycling. And we got the grant and launched the program in two relatively densely but largely compliant communities, North and South Wayne, with the houses are close enough together that it wasn't going to be a stress on the Public Works Department or whatever. And we, with the money, the grant that we got, we bought containers. There were two different kinds of containers that we got. One was a little trolley thing that had, at the time, we separated all of our recyclables because that was the standard at the time. And one was like a giant trash can thing. And we made a symbol. Actually, I designed the symbol that's on there, the Radnor Recycle. Our public works director at the time called and said, we don't have anything on there except Radnor Township. We need something else. And so that R that's on there that's got arrows in it That was my idea. So that was wonderful because we did it like as a start thing. But then other parts of the community were like, why can't we have recycling? And then there was a whole discussion about whether it should be curbside or not. And a lot of people at the time felt that it was unattractive to have curbside anything. Back then, they used to pick up our trash behind the house. Now you can do it if you pay money. You know, if you're infirm or you don't like that look or whatever, you can pay to have your trash picked up at the back of the house. But for the most part, everything was picked up behind the house. But we started the whole idea of, might as well put it at the curb. And it saved money and work by the guys who picked the trash up. And then it became, since other parts of the community wanted it, we applied to expand it. And the commissioners went along with it, and then it, became its own thing within Public Works, the recycling. So that was pretty good. It was nice to be able to see that grow, and now it's like normal for everybody. But we did this in like 1986, maybe.
The success of the recycling program, however, is still facing challenges.
All of our trash now, that's another part of the story. But anyway, I know that it's hard to, a lot of people aren't picking up the other end of the circle with recycling. It cycles but not recycles. So you end up, people aren't buying recycled paper, aren't buying, people are not using recycled glass, that kind of, although glass is a pretty easy thing to both sort and recycle. And metallic cans. Aluminum was a big thing for a long time because they could actually make money with aluminum. But it's finding somebody, to try to close the loop is an important thing. And so that's become an issue, and I think the whole thing's not working well.
Ms. Tumola's environmental efforts also included preserving open space.
Also, I think this is in the 80s. We did a study of land use. This slides one into the other. The comprehensive plan at the time was from 1969. This was probably 80-something, 88 maybe. And it was obvious that its direction was inappropriate for the way things were going. They had set up, you're supposed to set up your zoning and subdivision ordinances to reflect the values in the comprehensive plan. And those had not been changed in 20 years, and yet the whole industry had changed. So we did the study of the comprehensive plan, made a presentation to the public and to the commissioners, and it was for a new comprehensive plan. One of the major things in that plan was to do open space preservation. And so then we did a study, especially on open space, because it looked as though there was rumblings even then about not keeping the willows and using other open space, losing open space all over the place. Development was booming. And so we did the study and suggested that we needed a bond issue, as the comprehensive plan had also done. And so we worked with others who were not league, but very interested in this issue, to have an open space bond issue. And as such, we got it. And it was for a lot of money. I forget now how much the first one was for. But it opened the door to our general, in fact, the Willows really opened up in 1970 maybe or whatever, and a commitment by this community to keep it looking like what the 69 comprehensive plan referred to as a green country town, to keep greenery. And that was, we moved ahead and we had the bond issue. The bond issue passed overwhelmingly, which was a delightful surprise. And it started us down the path. We've had other bond issues since then. One about further open space acquisition, certainly in regard to or Dawson. And it raised awareness of the value of keeping space open. We made a case about the economic savings that come from preserving open space. No more students, not as many students in schools, not as many roads to plow, garbage to pick up, all those kinds of things that are stresses on your tax dollar, providing services. Once we knew we had open space, one of the things that people complained about was not using it. So the whole CSA, the Community Support Agriculture, the willows, saving the willows in general was part of that. The park is just gorgeous, and all the other parks. It's the same thing. Whereas once if it's done in one place, the rest of the people in the township do get rather concerned that they're not getting their piece of the pie. So we got into these other parks throughout the township. I think if I had my way now, we'd have another issue, and it would be about maintenance. You can buy all these things. You really have to, if you own something, it's up to you to take care of it. And I think there's a lot that is not being taken care of the way it should be right now. One of the things that we have done, which is an amazing thing to me, is we have protected that large swath of the Darby Creek, the little Darby Creek, which is a wonderful thing for everybody downstream throughout the rest of Delaware County, because it goes all the way down to Darby and into the river. So we have tried to keep all of the sedimentation and erosion out of the creek by having vegetation along the sides and to keep it clean. And it's been a struggle with people who, the stream through their backyard, because everybody likes, not everybody, many people like that mowed look right down to the stream. You really need to protect it by having plantings there. So that's what we're trying to do in Radnor, is protect the quality of the water. This all links in with the conservation district.
Ms. Tumola's environmental efforts also involve addressing the problem of household hazardous waste.
People buy things and throw things away that are dangerous to be put in our incinerator. Poisonous gases are coming out of it, and because you put all these different chemicals into a fire pit, and there's going to be combined effects of those things. And they say they scrub the outflow from the stacks, but they don't catch everything, and it rains down on the community around it. This is really an issue for environmental justice. And I need more people to not buy things that are toxic and to dispose of whatever ones they have the right way, which is what the county now has a hazardous waste collection days that we started also. The league started them.
Ms. Tumola also spoke about how today she thinks there's more freedom with the league's procedures.
I think, we talked about this. The league was much more rigid in the past about following certain rules. There are still a lot of rules, but they became somewhat antiquated. So it's a little bit looser, a little bit less structured, but the people are still earnest, and there's a lot of checks and balances about keeping us on track, so that nobody's allowed to stand up and say, I'm, Mary Jo, and I'm a member of the Radnor League, and I'd like to say this stinks. You can't do that. You have to get approval from the board and the president, which is a fine way to kind of make sure that your message conforms with what the league's message is. And it makes it a more trustworthy organization, because you feel like most people feel like the league does their homework, and we do. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of study. Not as rigid. We used to have these serious, rigid kind of studies where that's how we got the hazardous waste, this is how we got recycling, this is how we got land use. We would have a group of women who would do all the legwork, trying to find out whether this is good or not, and then the league would vote for it, and then we could go out and lobby for it. it's most of our positions now are already established for what's happening because the league has a tendency to think ahead.
Ms. Tumola gave an example of how the League is a voice for nonpartisanship with the saying,
if you live in a largely Democratic community, people think that the League is Republican. If you live in a largely Republican area, people think it's a Democratic organization. And that is because we address the shortcomings of the other. So if you criticize what's said, they think you're of the other party. That's not the case. But that's what people think. And I think that we have managed to remain above the fray and not be totally accused of being partisan, which I hope is still the case and will remain that way.
if you're considering joining the League, remember,
Get involved, but get involved with a subject that you're interested in knowing more about. And certainly you will find other like-minded individuals within the League, and you can all learn together, or you can learn from them, and maybe get a real change going of something that you would like to see.
thank you to Cheryl Tumola for participating in the League of Women Voters Oral History and for all of her environmental efforts to better Radnor. Next, we'll be speaking with Betty Mackey. Thank you for listening, and remember to stay civically engaged.